Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a very interesting subject matter, something I've been working on since I first came to Congress. And a little bit of follow-up on what Mr. Chaffetz was just saying in the interaction there. We do have an issue within the civil service system. There is such protection that it takes up to 2 years to fire a bad employee. That is something that has to be addressed. This is a bipartisan issue. I first learned of this from President Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security, who was begging for things to be changed because they're keeping employees who basically had committed crimes or had disciplinary actions so bad that they could not remove them from the payroll. They couldn't continue to do their job because they couldn't keep a security clearance, but they had to keep on the payroll for a year, and if they appealed, then it was another year. And so he said, we're paying people that are basically getting 2 years of unpaid vacation with full benefits. This has to change. This has to change. And so I just wanted to bring that up, is it's not going back to the old system. And I don't know what is in Project 25, but I have legislation that would bring in sensible ways of streamlining civil service and making sure that they are productive and they are doing their jobs and they're just not getting a free ride off the American taxpayer. So I think we do have to be intellectually honest as we talk about these issues. But to the issue at hand, this is something that I've been working on since I came to Congress. Myself, Senator Mike Lee, and then Congressman Jeb Hensarling put together the Article 1 project, which is to rebalance the powers which the majority are given to Congress. And we saw at the time that there's an extensive amount of power since World War II that have been extended to the executive branch. And it was interesting. I was having dinner with Justice Scalia one evening, and we were talking about this, and I asked him, I said, what can we do to eliminate or to rein in the executive branch from legislating via regulation and the courts from legislating from the bench? And his response was, Congress needs to do its job. You need to write legislation with more specificity. And so this is the type of thing, this is good timing. And Chevron deference was one of the issues that we were facing at the time. And my understanding has always been that when an act of government can deprive citizens of property or liberty, it is not a rule or regulation, it's a law. And only Congress can enact those laws. So with those things on the table there, Mr. Ray, what specific accountability measures should Congress adopt to ensure that federal agencies adhere strictly to legislative intent in both their rulemaking duties and enforcement activities?
I would say, first and foremost, specificity in statutory text, as you just mentioned. Another helpful approach is to specify the outcomes that Congress is after. Right? When agencies are left great discretion, they can pick and choose among the outcomes to optimize for. When Congress specifies we want the following outcomes in this, say in this particular order, then that constrains agency discretion in a pretty serious way.
Do you feel like, for us to give specificity in legislation, which I think we should, sometimes we're handcuffed because we don't necessarily have the experts in the field that I'd make the argument at one time they were there in the administrative or in the executive branch. I think in the past few decades, political ideology has taken over from expertise as who's appointed in these positions. But is there a way that you can, do you see that handcuffs Congress somewhat, not having experts in fields?
So 2 points in response to the question. First of all, it would certainly be impossible for Congress itself to address the topic of every rulemaking undertaken by the executive branch. There's several hundred rulemakings open for comment right now. But it could answer or resolve a number of the most important rulemakings, right? It could, there's only a few hundred major rulemakings per year typically. It's conceivable that Congress could itself take the initiative in a number of those proceedings. The second point I'd make is that if Congress were to narrow the scope of statutes, then states and other lawmaking bodies across the country could take up some of the work for Congress.
Oh, I like the idea of federalism, and that plays into it. So real quickly, last question. Do you think that there are any mechanisms that we already have in place to do this work, or do we just need a new system and new processes to be created and implemented?
Congress will not be able to exert effective control as long as just responding to agencies. So I think there are some existing systems that could be used effectively today, but really what's called for is a new approach.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.